Today, we are delighted to have a true legend on the podcast. She is a multiple world champion, a USA Triathlon Hall of Famer, successful coach of an Olympic medalist and Ironman champion, inspiration to many, many thousands through her Bedhead Chronicles and social media, and put simply, one of the great ambassadors and embodiments of the power of self-belief. So welcome to the World Triathlon Podcast, Siri Lindley.
It's so great to be here. Thank you, Doug. I can't wait for this conversation. As you know, I love this sport. I feel so grateful for my experience in it. So thank you for having me.
We've got a lot of ground to cover, so from triathlon and well beyond. So just to paint a picture of whereabouts you are right now, and it's Friday evening here. You know, how's it been a typical Friday in the Lindley household?
Well, it's a special, yesterday was Thanksgiving here in America. I am in Longmont, Colorado, which is basically just outside of Boulder. And this has been a special year because I overcame and triumphed over leukemia, which was the greatest challenge of my entire life, probably the scariest thing I've ever been through. But I am so deeply grateful. And yesterday was a huge day of just expressing my gratitude for this incredible miracle of life, and I think so much of what we learn being athletes and all the challenges we come up against when we are pursuing a goal that may seem impossible, it really helped me kind of master my mindset and to be able to get through what I have. But I am so happy to say that I am almost 9 months post bone marrow transplant, and I am cancer free. I get to live, which is the most divine gift I could ever ask for. And so this Friday, I am just feeling truly deeply blessed and grateful to be here and to be able to have this conversation and to be able to say that, everyone out there, athletes, what you are developing character-wise, challenging yourself with this sport is going to help you in every other area of your life. And it's just magnificent.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So it was in July, was it, that you heard that you were clear completely?
It was, yeah. I was diagnosed exactly a year ago on this past Wednesday. And it was
so the day
August
before Thanksgiving last year, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So they were very different Thanksgivings.
Yeah.
Last year and this year were very, very different. But so in August I found out I was cancer free, and I'm just continuing to get stronger and healthier every single day. And it's been quite the journey, but I'm just so deeply grateful to be here now and to feel as well as I do, and to be back. I'm back. I ran a turkey trot 5K, virtual yesterday on Thanksgiving, and that to me, when I was really, really sick and in hospital, I tried to really focus on the life that awaited me when I would triumph over this. And I would think about, running on my favorite trails and, being back with my athletes, coaching, and I would just see myself, doing these things again and feeling what it would feel like, and really putting myself in that space where I felt like I was there. And that helped me so much. So you can imagine, yesterday running 5K on the treadmill was just the most joyous experience ever, because I was actually doing what I've been dreaming of doing over the last year. And, granted, my goal was to run 5K in what I used to run 10K in under 34 minutes. And I did that. And I ran 5K in 31 minutes, which is, of course, nothing like what I used to do, but it just doesn't matter to me. It's the fact that I am running and I am alive and I am healthy. And that is such a gift.
Right. And that was literally your first kind of run of that distance, was it? Had you set Thanksgiving as the moment you wanted to take that on?
I've been building up. I really can only run like maybe twice a week. And I've actually gotten up to 4.5 miles very, very slowly, like, 11 minute 30 per mile. But my goal was to actually do a 5K where I could push it a little bit, not just go the distance, but push it a little. So that was actually me doing like, my own little 5K race. And um, it felt so good to not only know that I could go the distance, but that I could, challenge myself and push it a little bit. And it was just the ultimate celebration of life and living and this gift. And I think a great lesson, that I tell people now is sometimes on those days when you just don't feel like working out, like you just don't feel like doing it. I don't think I'll ever have a day like that ever again, because I just see like you get to do this. You get to move your body. You get to go for a run. You get to go for a swim. Like, what a gift, because I know what it feels like to not be able to do that. And I honestly don't think that I will ever again in my life dread having to move my body or do a workout. I just consider it the ultimate gift.
Yeah. I mean, to have obviously not only be told that you've got a life-threatening illness, but that by consequence takes away everything that gives you pleasure as well. I mean, you're an incredibly positive person, but that sort of double header must have really shaken you, didn't it? Or did it actually sort of galvanize your inner positivity a bit?
Yeah, I mean, it shook me. It turned my life upside down, and I was so overwhelmed with fear and shock and, all of that. But I knew that sitting in those feelings was not going to lead me to triumph. Sitting in feelings of how sad, how scared, how anxious, how sick I felt was not going to help me heal. So I made the decision, and actually the day of my diagnosis, I turned to my wife and I said, this is not my time to go. I am going to survive and I am going to thrive. And regardless of how bad it looked, like that was my decision. And I think that when we declare that, when we make that decision and we declare it to someone that we love and care about and that we're accountable to, what that made me do is discipline my thoughts, my focus, the meaning I gave every single thing that was happening to me. It made me have those thoughts, feelings, and meanings empower me rather than weaken me. So, for example, instead of saying, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to me, like, why me? Like, that's not going to help me. And instead, I thought, okay, maybe this is happening for a greater purpose. Maybe I'm going to learn something through this experience that is going to allow me to be that much more and give that much more to the world around me. Perhaps there's something I'm going to learn that is going to be a beautiful, powerful message that can touch people's lives and make a difference. So I found an empowering meaning. And in moments of, deep sadness or deep depression or just feeling so sick, I would acknowledge those feelings. I would love myself through it. And then I'd say, okay, let's change the channel. I'm going to change the channel to gratitude. I'm so grateful that I have my wife and my mom beside me in every single moment. I have the best doctors in the country. I've got my spirit, I've got proof, of in the past where I was faced with something that seemed impossible, but I found a way to overcome it and make it possible. Like I have proof of times that I have overcome and I have triumphed. And so every time I was lost in those horrible emotions and feelings that were not helping me heal, I would change my focus to something that would empower me. And gratitude was the bridge. Gratitude is what gave me hope. It gave me energy. And it helped me to really stay in my power rather than fall into, the depths of sadness. So, but that discipline of focus and being the master of my mindset, which I truly believe has led me to where I am today, has developed over the years, through sport and through every challenge I've taken on. And that's why it's so important. And I think triathlon is so powerful because it's so incredibly important that when we're afraid, that we forge forward, that we're bold and that we're courageous and that we take a chance on ourselves and believe in what we're capable of. because the fact of the matter is that we are more powerful than you could ever imagine. You know, I've proven that to myself over this last year, but you have to take a chance on you and believe in you and do yourself the favor of truly directing your focus and giving things empowering meaning and taking action in the direction you want to go, not in the direction you don't want to go.
Yeah, because it's not. I mean, it's not just about the fear of a thing and having to overcome that. It's if you're trying to recover from something or overcome something, then the negativity can become a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? That there isn't, how can there be any science behind it, but the power of that positive thought in healing actual, life-threatening diseases, or in people overcoming that. Is there a tangible way of like explaining that or trying to teach it, or is it?
I think so. I mean, I think there are many human examples of people that have triumphed because of how they manage their mindset. And my greatest mentor, Tony Robbins, has always said, where focus goes, energy flows. If you focus on, failing or not making it through or not having what it takes, that's what you're going to create. But if I'm focusing on being strong and being strong and surviving and thriving, every decision I make is going to be with that in mind. So, for example, I got diagnosed, and it's like, okay, what do I need to do now to ensure that I go into this treatment as strong as possible and that I come out the other side surviving? So if I'm focusing on healing and I'm focusing on having what I need and I'm focusing on getting through this, that's what I'm creating. And that is going to lead to me making decisions that will, ultimately lead me to that outcome. So I, decided, okay, I'm going to start meditating. I'm going to find other, different things that people have said help you heal, like, grounding and paying attention to the voltage in your body. And I also really thought about, the things that often can lead to sickness are things that lead to stress and anxiety and worry, are when we have unresolved conflicts within us, whether that's, still feeling hurt or pain over someone that has hurt us, and not having forgiven them, or not having forgiven ourselves for a mistake we made that we can't, let go of. Like, I knew that I kind of needed to go in and sweep my soul, like sweep away, forgive, the people that I felt had hurt me, and set myself free from that, forgive myself for mistakes I may have made, to resolve any inner conflicts that I had within myself.
Really
Or
get into the
between me and
corners.
yeah, absolutely. And I sweeped out my soul to make way for the healing to come through me. And so it really, when you focus your attention not on, what if I die? What if this kills me? That's not going to get me anywhere. But I'm like, I'm going to survive and I'm going to thrive. And so when I'm focusing on creating that, where focus goes, energy flows, all my energy went into doing everything I possibly could to ensure that I would triumph in the end. And that's a commitment that you make. But basically, I know in my life, everything, there was a time in college when I was a mess. I had OCD. I was overcome with anxiety and fear. And I couldn't even though I was functioning, I was, a 3-sport varsity athlete, and I'm getting straight A's at an Ivy League university. Like, everything seemed great, but I was so miserably unhappy. And that's when Tony Robbins came into my life with this book. It's called Unlimited Power. And, that term, where focus goes, energy flows. And I'll challenge all of you, like, think about your own patterns of thought. Are you always thinking about what's missing or what you have? Are you always focusing on what you don't want and don't want to have happen, or what you're afraid of? Or are you focusing on what you want and what you love and what you want to create? And the biggest one, are you focusing on what you have no control over? Or are you focusing on what you have all the control over? Because depending on your patterns of thought, like back in college, I was thinking about what was missing, what I feared, what I didn't want to have happen, and what I had no control over. No wonder I was miserable. But in reading this book and understanding this whole principle, I changed my thoughts to what I had, to what I loved and wanted to create, and to what I had all the control over, which is my own experience of life. Like we are in charge of our own experience of life. It's how we respond and how we react and how the meaning that we give things happening in our lives. And once I shifted my focus in that way, my entire life turned around. And this applies to everyone. It applies to, your relationships, your business, how you perform in your sport. If you want abundance in your life, you've got to make sure that your focus is headed in the right direction, and that you are giving empowering meanings to everything that's happening to you. Failing or falling short or being disappointed, not having the race that we dreamed of having. You can focus on the fact that, oh my God, I failed and I'm not good enough and all of this. That's not going to make you any better. But if you have a race that wasn't your best, or you feel like you failed, you got to understand you are going to learn so much more from that disappointment that you would ever learn from winning that race. Look upon it as a gift that you are learning something from this. So I used to always look upon, failure not as failing, but as learning and as growing, and that was going to make me better. And that's where I'm talking about, like, the meaning you give things. Because if you're not willing to fail, you're actually not willing to succeed, because in order to succeed, you're going to have to fail along the way.
If you want to become a top class athlete, then, well, you're never going to reach those highs if you are focusing on things you don't have control over. I mean, that's true across sport, but I mean, particularly in triathlon, right? I mean, I say it all the time, it comes out of interviews time and time again, that there are so many factors in triathlon out of your control.
Yeah.
That if you're going to, if those are the things that are sticking in your craw a bit, then that's always going to hold you back.
Yeah. And if you don't mind, Doug, I'd love to share, the day I won the world championships in 2001, I came out of the water at the very back of the pack. And up until that point in time, my story was that if I had a crappy swim like that my race was over. That was kind of the story, the meaning that I gave a bad swim. But on this day, like, I had never trained so hard in my life. I'd never been so prepared. And I decided to shift my focus from the bad swim and the meaning I gave it of my race is over to, okay, I had a bad swim, but hey, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for me to put my head down and go harder than I've ever gone before and do whatever it takes to get as close to the front as I can. So there I shifted my meaning, shifted my focus. I got on my bike. I rode harder than I ever had before because I had nothing to lose. I caught the fourth pack, then I caught the third pack, then I caught the second pack, and suddenly at the end of the last lap, I'm at the front of the race. And because I backed myself, like, I believed in myself, I didn't give up on me. And I got off on the run, and I took off like a bat out of hell. I had McKeely Jones, who I think was #1 in the world at the time. She's right on my shoulder. But I had, like, never felt so alive in my entire life because I took a chance on me. I didn't give up, and I didn't assume that my race was over because of my crap swim. And I ended up having the race of my life and became the world champion on that day. Now, if I had followed or believed in my usual story that bad swim race is over, I wouldn't be a world champion today. So that's how powerful it is, in motion, like in a race, how when you shift your focus and change the meaning of the things happening around you, it can totally elevate you to your greatest race ever. So that's just kind of a small example of how this works.
And was that change in your mindset, that kind of very conscious thought of I can do this, a result of that particularly precise and complete preparation that you had put into that race, do you think, that you were talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I thought, okay, I need to shift my focus and change my meaning. Like I look back now and I see that that's how I won that race. That's how I created that on that day.
Mm.
But it was a matter of like really focusing on, my God, I have worked so hard. I am so ready for this. And sometimes your greatest races are going to come, you know, starting with something bad happening, but you can't define that and assume that everything's over. Like, I mean, things, great races, you don't, I don't think I've ever had a perfect race in my entire career. And I don't think I've ever seen any of my athletes have a perfect race. And so if that's what you're searching for, and until you know, suddenly arrive on this perfect day, you're missing out on so many beautiful victories. Whether you win the race or not, it's a matter of, you know, being the best that you can be on every single day, you know, being better than you were the day before, whether that's physically better or mentally stronger or more disciplined with your thinking. Um, but don't miss out on those incredible races because you're waiting for the perfect day, because that perfect day may never come.
And you discovered the Unlimited Power book. You said, was that while you were at college? So that was even before you took up triathlon.
Yeah, that was like so that was so long ago. That was when I got 1991. And what I thought that book had done for me was just free me from the chains of my OCD and led me into a place where I wanted to find out who I am and learn to love that person. And you know, it freed me from a lot of pain of my childhood and growing up. But what I realize now is that those tools, you know, translated so beautifully into every other aspect of my life, including, you know, my time going through sport. And when I started triathlon, like I didn't even know how to swim and I was 23 years old. I mean, but I fell in love with this sport. I thought this is the coolest thing ever. I'm going to find myself through this sport. And I wanted so desperately to, like, my dream was to become the best in the world, to win a world championship in this sport. And, you know, I was kind of a joke because I was so bad. You know, my first race, I was like dead last and I couldn't swim. And, but I was so eager and the sport made me feel so alive. It was everything that I ever dreamed of feeling and doing. And but I remember when I made that decision to commit my life to this, I said to my mom, you know, I want to be the best in the world in this sport. And she kind of looked at me like, oh my God, my poor daughter, she's just crazy thinking she can do this. But I knew at that time that two things had to happen, and the most important things. And one of them was that I needed to let go of trying to be everything I thought I needed to be for everyone else around me, because I was a people pleaser and I was just trying to be what I thought I needed to be. I needed to be fearlessly, authentically me, to be my most powerful self. And I needed to become someone that was willing to fail, understanding, you know, that it is through our failures and our disappointments that we learn and we grow the most. And that was going to be necessary for me to go from where I was, which was I sucked, to achieving what I dreamed of achieving. So those were my two big things that I had to do in the beginning of this journey. And then it was just a matter of, you know, immersing myself in the sport, training harder than I ever thought imaginable, modeling the very best athletes in the sport, you know, doing what they did. If you model people that have already achieved what you dream of achieving, you know, and you do what they do, you know, of course that's going to take you to all new levels of performance. And, you know, I surrounded myself with people that were going to push me to be better than I was. And all those things were kind of the secret to my success, my eventual success 8 years after setting this goal.
Mm. Like, so you were diagnosed with OCD. I mean, what, in the sort of early 90s, was it?
I wasn't diagnosed
Ah,
actually.
right.
Um, I felt like an absolute crazy person, Doug. I mean, I was one of those people. I'd be getting ready for a lacrosse game, and it would take me an hour to leave my dorm room because I have to put my socks on and off 1,000 times until I could get a horrible thought out of my mind. And it was horrible. Like, I felt so alone. Nobody ever talked about that stuff. Nobody ever,
Well, that's what I
uh,
thought. Like back then,
yeah.
it wasn't a thing, right? I mean,
Well, now I know it was a
mm,
thing, but I
mm.
felt like I was the only person on the planet that was crazy like this or felt like this, and that's why. I mean,
No, but I mean,
as a
it's
side note,
discussed so openly now and widely, and like it's a yeah, a well recognized thing, isn't it? But back then, yeah,
I
there was no word for it.
no word. So it was a battle I fought on my own. But I found a way through it, and that's given me, I've been able to help a lot of other people that deal with OCD because of the fact that I had to figure it out on my own. But now, I mean, I think it's so important as leaders, whatever we're leaders in, whether you're a coach or a teacher, or a parent or a friend, um, being vulnerable and being authentic is so incredibly important because people need to know that they're not alone in anxiety or not alone in fear or not alone in depression or whatever it is. It's so incredibly important as leaders, that we allow people to share, but we share first so that people feel safe in sharing. Um, and then when they do, the minute you know you're not alone, you already feel better, you know?
And some of the manifestations of OCD must have helped you become a better athlete, right? The focus on small things and so on. I always think, if you're and therefore in many ways you were very lucky to, I mean, you were always a sporty person, but you were lucky to have triathlon then became the thing you focus on. For people who never find that thing, who have OCD or something similar, it must be terrible.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I do think, I mean, in a sense, it's a bit of a superpower because you are paying attention to detail, but there's that fine line, there's that line that if you cross it, it just robs you of joy and happiness in your life. And that's where I had
Right.
come to is I just, yes, I was, you know, like I said, a great athlete, a great student, but I was miserable. I mean, so unhappy and so scared in my own skin. And that's where it becomes a problem. But, having had that level of OCD, I'll always be a little obsessive compulsive, but in only the way where it helps me. It helps me perform, it helps me achieve, and all those things. But if it ever gets to the point where it's robbing you of your joy and fulfillment in life, that's when you really need to say, okay, I'm going to get some help on this or try and figure out how to have this serve me rather than hurt me.
Do you think the people around you back then were aware of how you felt? If you're performing as an athlete, you're performing, getting great grades. Was it still? Do you think it was still obvious to people that you were unhappy? Were you getting support and so on, or would people not really have picked up on it?
Well, first of all, I mean, what's crazy is like even my mom, who I was closest to, never knew that I was struggling with OCD.
Mm.
Like nobody knew I hid it so well, which also made it that much more painful. Um, but no, on the outside, it looked like I had it made. It looked like I was happy, well adjusted, performing. But on the inside, I truly was slowly dying. And that's what was pretty scary about it is that nobody knew except me. Um, but hey, I found my way through it. I found a formula that works. And by going through that and overcoming that, it just gave me such a strength and an internal wisdom, to be able to handle anything that came my way, beyond that point in time.
So when you said earlier, you said to your wife that you were going to thrive again coming out of the illness, or well, no, actually, as you had just been diagnosed. At what point? That's such a great phrase to or a word to use, right? To thrive is everything. At what point in your life did you become somebody who felt, you know, the pursuit of thriving and being able to thrive was what you were about, and you were kind of losing the shackles of everything else before.
Doug, it's crazy because I felt the most blissful and the most like I was thriving in my life in the past few years before this diagnosis. And, that's a crazy thing. I felt energetic and I was, loving everything that I was doing in my life, my coaching, we run a horse rescue ranch here and, speaking all around the world and speaking for Tony Robbins on his stage, like, and being happy in my marriage and my friends and my family. So yeah, I felt like I had found that sweet spot
Mm.
where I was living my bliss, living in total alignment with my values and what matters to me, surrounding myself with people that bring out the best in me and that I bring out the best in. And then this happened. But I think that I never looked at that like, oh my God, how can this happen right when life is exactly where I want it to be? Instead, I thought, okay, again, like there's got to be a deeper purpose for what's happening for me right now. And maybe that is, I am so blessed to have the opportunity to speak to 15,000 people at a time at Tony Robbins events who, I mean, first of all, I mean, what a dream. I'm speaking for my greatest mentor, on his stage, which is a dream come true, but I have an incredible platform where I can touch lives and make a difference. And I kept thinking, maybe I'm going through this because what I discovered through this journey is going to give me a greater wisdom that I can share, to a lot of people that can make a difference. And maybe that's why this is happening. And so, how I handle this, how I get through this, how I deal with this, how I use this is going to be everything to me. And it also gave me that much more, inspiration to want to make it through. Um, and I hope that makes sense. I mean, it's a very one of the greatest lessons that I learned through this journey through leukemia was, I've always been such a giver. I just give and give and give and give some more, and that's what fills me up and makes me so happy. But I've always struggled to receive, whether that has been me not feeling worthy enough or me whatever is behind it. I've always struggled to receive. And when you go through cancer, you reach a point where you have no choice, but you have to receive the help, support of others. My wife had to make the money in the household and support me. My mom and my wife had to, care for me through this, the doctors and nurses. So I learned how to receive through this journey. And the most powerful and beautiful thing about that is that once we are able to receive as well as give, we have so much more to give. When you're just constantly giving, you're going to run dry. You're going to, not have enough energy to keep giving. You'll only have so much to give. But when you're able to receive, you're constantly nourishing yourself and being able to give that much more. And I truly feel that in learning how to receive, thanks to this journey, I now have so much more to give. And that feels like a beautiful gift. And it also, speaking of not being able to receive, and had that been me not, for whatever reason, not feeling worthy of that, I know now more than ever, not just how loved I am by my wife and by my mom and my dad and my sister, but how much I love myself and care about myself. When I thought that I was going to lose my life, that's when I really stepped in for me and said, it's not your time to go, Siri. Okay. You've got so much to give to this world. And I realized how much I love myself, and that for all of us, you know, when we love ourselves, we can do so much more in this world. We can feel that true joy that we all so deserve. We can celebrate who we are and express ourselves by being all of who we are. And that is such a gift to not only the people in your life that you love and care about, but it's such a gift to this world, because we are so much more and we can give so much more when we truly live authentically as who we are. But that requires you to love and appreciate yourself first.
Yeah. I guess you must be just itching to bounce back and get back on the, or have you already on the kind of speech circuit and so on? Have you?
Yeah, the amazing thing, and I feel, it's kind of the silver lining of COVID, is that I never stopped coaching. Staying connected to my athletes really gave me energy and helped me, feel like I was strong and alive and all these things. And because of COVID, every event has gone virtual. So I've actually done 7 events so far in the last few months virtually. So I've been very blessed. And like I said, it's been a silver lining to not miss out, even though I've kind of been out for a year. I only missed 1 event. And that's the same thing, I feel about coaching as well. Like, had everything been normal and my athletes were all racing around the world, like, I would have missed that and I wouldn't have been able to be there for them. So I do feel like I've been very blessed to the timing of this all, although it made it, I didn't focus on this, but it made it super scary. Being immunocompromised and going through this amidst a pandemic is pretty scary, but I didn't focus on that. I focused more on the fact that, hey, I'm going to need like a year to get through this and hopefully survive it and be thriving on the other end. But the world is kind of stopped as well. So it was a comfort to me. I mean, that's horrible to say because this pandemic has been just devastating, but the timing has kind of helped me, not to miss out on all the things I would have had it been different.
So as someone who essentially, like, your triathlon success was you just challenging yourself to the next step, to the next step, to the next step, until you reached the goal that you wanted to. So as a coach, do you think that makes you even more of a hard taskmaster, or how would you describe your coaching style?
Well, I am always, when I'm coaching an athlete, I'm truly thinking about the whole package, mind, body, spirit. And I think one of the best things that I bring as a coach is that I truly believe that anything is possible because I prove that myself. And I've seen it happen, with my own athletes as well. But I work my athletes hard, but I want to know what is motivating them, why they want this. Like, what is their deep emotional reason why they must achieve these goals that they have for themselves? Because when you understand what the driving force is behind your athlete doing what they're doing, it gives you such great insight into how to motivate them, how to train them, how to work together with them to maximize every single day to ultimately lead them to achieving their ultimate goal. So paying attention, and that's why I say mind, body, spirit, ensuring that they are motivated, they're inspired, they're connected to their values. That gives you the leg up right away, and holds so much power, rather than thinking we just need to train an athlete into the ground. Having an understanding of their deep why and what's driving them, what's motivating them, gives you an ability to really tailor the actual physical training to get the very most out of each athlete. So yes,
do you need to know that before working with someone, or do you, are you able to unpick that as you go sometimes, or really is it something that, you have to sort of be able to sense that before you're able to invest in them?
I'll invest. I mean, first of all, choosing who to work with is definitely something I invest a lot of time with, because you want to know that it's the right fit. So I guess I'm going to know enough before I get started, but most of it you discover through the process, and that's the fun of it. Is, there's this amazing quote: I saw the angel in the marble and I carved until I set her free. It's by Michelangelo. And when I take on an athlete, I always think of that quote, because I see this person, but I know that we're going to have to chip away at all this marble, to get to reveal their full potential. And so once we begin working, it's a matter of chipping away at that marble, bringing out the best in that, and ultimately revealing that angel that's going to go and, win a world championship or whatever it is. Um, so yeah, knowing enough, and I need to know that I won't just take on any athlete. It's got to be someone that I truly feel shares my values, understands the way I think, and cares enough about not just getting out there and winning races for winning races' sake, but is really about the whole process of becoming their best self. Because I'm always thinking about, yeah, I want my athlete, if they're coming to me and they want to win a world championship, we're going to freaking win a world championship. But along the way, I want to know that they are growing and evolving into the very best human that they can be as well. That matters just as much to me. Maybe not as much to them, but just as much to me.
Mm. And you were coaching like super quick after your racing career, right? I mean, did it just kind of segue in? Suddenly you were coaching at Athens. How did that switch come about so quickly?
Oh my God, I was so ready. I was so ready to retire in 2001 after I won the world championships, because I kind of found what I was looking for. And this may sound strange, but I was looking for a love and an appreciation and a respect for myself, which I got through believing in myself, never giving up, and ultimately achieving that impossible dream. So I was ready to retire, but then I thought to myself, being a pretty critical judge of myself at that time, I thought, 3 months from now, I'm going to probably be saying, oh, maybe I just got lucky, or maybe that was a fluke. And I didn't want to have to deal with that, So I thought, I'm going to commit to me. I'm going to believe in me, and I'm going to put together one more year where I can race as well as I possibly can. And my ultimate goal became, I want to retire at number one in the world. But I knew that that would require me putting together another year of winning a lot of races and being able to hold that number one ranking. But and that was terrifying, because I was taking a chance on me again. But that's what you got to do. So I did that, and I retired in 2003 at number one in the world, and I was so ready to share everything that I learned on this journey with other people. I wanted them to realize that even if they weren't very good, when they first came to me, that we could achieve something spectacular. But this is what we've got to do. These are the things we've got to, pay attention to. And yeah, I've had some incredible athletes. I mean, I never forget my training partner, Loretta Harrop, who I learned so much from. She is probably the toughest woman I've ever known in my entire life, and she taught me so much. And I attribute a lot of my success to her being my training partner. But she had just left Brett Sutton, who had coached her for years, like, I don't know, 10 years, and had done such an incredible job with her. And she came to me and said, hey, I want you to help me in my lead up to the Athens Olympics. And I also had Susan Williams from the USA who was preparing. And so it was really interesting, because Loretta was still kind of, she was making her own plan. Then she'd have me look at it, and we'd discuss it, and we'd change things around. It was very much kind of the way that Brett trained her, but we'd make adjustments. Whereas Susan, I said, okay, I'm going to coach you. I didn't tell her this, but I decided I was going to coach her in the way that I believed was going to bring out the best in her, and that was going to work different to what Brett did, in my way. And it was so amazing, because they both went off to the Olympics, and Loretta won the silver medal and Susan won the bronze medal, which was like totally unexpected. But it was so incredible, because it was it was reassuring to me to know that I could think, create my own plan for what I thought would work for my athletes, and to
See it happen.
have that, you see that it worked and see that it was successful. Um, because I think it's hard for some people, they want to coach exactly the way they were trained. Because, hey, if that made me successful, then this must work, with other athletes. But I really felt in my heart that I needed to come up with my own philosophies. And a lot of that came from what Brett had taught me, but it was also very, very different. So I was incredibly blessed to have that opportunity to kind of see both philosophies at work and see both of them succeeding. And obviously, it was so helpful to early on in my coaching career to have those kinds of results. People trusted that I wasn't just a great athlete, but that I obviously was a pretty good coach. And I just love coaching so much. It's my passion. It's my heart, and had so many incredible athletes along the way. And I just feel so deeply blessed to have played a role in their success in the sport. It's just the ultimate privilege. An athlete comes to me with their dream, and it's like, I feel like they're handing me gold, because our dreams are like gold. And when they come to me to have them coach them, it's like, hey, they believe that I can help them make this happen. And I take that very seriously. And their dream becomes my dream. And it's a huge commitment. And that's why I don't coach a ton of athletes, because when I commit, I am all in. And it's a big deal. It's a big deal for me,
So would Coach Siri in 2004 Athens recognize Coach Siri 2020, purely in terms of coaching methods, I guess?
She would recognize her for sure, but she'd be like, wow, you got really confident. You're really, you're truly connected to your philosophy and what you believe in and how you want to do things. Obviously, I'm always learning. I expect my athletes to grow and learn every day, and I expect the same from myself. But I think my former self would be proud of how, and it's not like a loud confidence, but how confident I am in how I coach and in what I know, and in believing in my philosophies and how I do things, and what I've achieved with all my different athletes. So I think she'd be really proud. And yeah,
anybody who's got into the pool properly for the first time at the age of 23 and made their way to become world champion, and then coached Olympic medalists at the same. I mean, that that is the kind of wisdom that athletes are going to be falling over themselves. That is literally building greatness out of out of nothing, if you hadn't swum before, really, right? I mean, that is incredible.
Well, you just gave me goosebumps, Doug. So thank you. I don't think I ever really have sat and thought about this in that way. So thank you. You just gave me a beautiful gift, because I got goosebumps all over my body, and it was kind of like, wow, I did do that. So thank you. That means the world to me. Thank you so much.
But also, I guess, what was the sort of the triathlon scene like then? Did you find it, was there any kind of pushback to a rookie coming on the scene and kind of getting stuck in? Was it a very welcoming environment?
Oh, no. I mean, I think people, to be honest, kind of laughed at me, but also maybe had a respect for me, because I wanted it so bad. I was willing to just, I remember Jane Scott, when I moved to Boulder, Colorado, I told her how desperately I wanted to become good at this. And she would throw me in these swim lanes that were like way too fast for me. And people would get so pissed off at me. You can imagine, they were like, what are you doing in our lane? You're not fast enough. But Jane would just say, Siri, you hang on as long as you can and then pull to the side. And then hang on as long as you can again and then pull to the side. And I did that because she was telling me what I needed to do to become better. And I was going to do that. But people got really frustrated with me, you can imagine, and kind of laughed at me. But I wanted this so bad, and I was going to do whatever it took to become proficient in this sport. And I'm so thankful for people like Jane Scott and Yoli Cassis, who was my first coach, who weren't afraid to ruffle some feathers by putting me in with people that I didn't belong with. But I fully understood that I needed to surround myself with people that were going to kick my ass, that people that were going to show me like how far I needed to go before I could get to where I wanted to be. Like I needed that. And I'm so grateful that I had mentors and leaders that were willing to put me in situations like that, knowing full well that probably the other athletes wouldn't really like it very much.
Mm. And obviously 2004 was only the second time it had been on the Olympic program. And so, yeah, I mean, you've been there, you've witnessed firsthand triathlon's development. I mean, it must be very exciting to see as it has progressed to where it stands now as a sport.
It's amazing. I'm so impressed and so proud of, there's so many people that were around in the day when I was racing, and I think, God, they must be so proud because they're still working it, people um that are on the board or running the races still, like they must be so proud. But I'm so grateful that I was racing at the time that I did, um kind of when things were just becoming big and grand and all of that. But it's so incredible to witness how the races are run now and how big a stage we're on now, and being in the Olympics. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. So I'm so proud of our sport and everyone in it, to see how far we've come, and to know that so many more people know what triathlon is now, and they too now can participate at whatever level, and it changes lives. It makes a difference in this world, and I'm thrilled to see where things are today. It's incredible. You guys have done the most amazing job.
Well, and it's nice, you're you've been at the top, but you're still so entrenched in the sport. It's not like you're kind of misty eyed about the past. Yes, you're very happy to have been competing at the time that you were, but yeah, you're still at the pointy end of it, very, very much.
And so happy to be. I will be a part of this sport, God, for years to come. I know I've been
Mm.
involved for a long time, but like I said, it's my passion. It's in my heart. And I know that I can have an impact with the athletes I work with, and that means the world to me. If I can witness more of my athletes achieving their ultimate dream and living the life that they've only dreamed of, but seeing them work so hard to make that happen and ultimately achieve it, like that's just the ultimate gift and joy and privilege. So I'm excited for everything that's ahead. That's for sure. For decades and decades to come, I will be here. I promise.
And are there any specific projects that you've maybe kind of cooked up over the last year, given what you've been through? Has the mind wandered to other things that you've specifically set your heart on achieving, or is it?
Oh, definitely. I'm really seeing on a daily basis how the things that I'm doing are making a difference, and that means everything to me. That's kind of my mission in life, and I want to continue, speaking on the world stage and sharing my message, and making a difference in that way means so much to me. Coaching means so much to me, and I have some really exciting projects with certain athletes that I'm very inspired by. And my wife and I, over the last 4 years, have been rescuing horses from slaughter. And at first, you may think, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, actually, working together with these amazing horses, I believe, has made me an even better coach. It has just been, they've been such incredible teachers, but we're saving them from slaughter, which is the most brutal and disgusting and horrific practice you could ever imagine. And these horses, I don't know if you know this, but horses are great healers. They're not just great teachers, but great healers. And they help people heal from things like PTSD and addiction. They help kids with disabilities. Like, they are just such powerful healers. So we've saved 124 horses from slaughter in the last 3.5 years, and many of them have gone on to equine therapy ranches around the country where they're healing humans. And so, a huge part of my wanting to make a difference in this world and impacting humans, and in a sense, wanting to help heal humans going through things, these horses have provided another way to do that. So, we are so inspired by our mission. It means everything to us, and it's making a difference in human lives as well, which is just really fulfilling. So yeah, I've got a lot on my plate, but living life to the fullest with gratitude, with appreciation, bringing out the best in myself and bringing out the best in all those around me. That's my life's mission. And I feel so blessed to have the opportunity to live that.
Amazing. Well, Siri Lindley, we look forward to seeing where that mission takes you next. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and reflecting. And it's been a pleasure and an inspiration for sure.
Well, thank you so much. You are incredible. I've just loved our conversation. I love your questions. Thank you for all that you do, and long live this incredible sport of ours. And thank you for your help in making that happen.
Well,
There you are.
thanks very much.